How you doing, folks? Ordinary Income back today. Hope you've all had a great week so far. It's heated up over here where I'm at. I don't know if it has for everybody else, but it's definitely hot. And something that still stayed hot, just like the weather, is inflation. Now, you might be wondering, how is that possible when the headline says inflation slows for the first time in 9 months? Well, we got to take a look at a couple numbers to see what I mean there. The news came out this morning that the prices of things from April 2022 compared to April 2021 rose 8.3%. So if things you were purchasing for $1,000 last year, to purchase the same things, you need $1,083 to get the exact same amount of stuff, which is pretty tough on a lot of people. It's pretty hard. Now, they're saying it slowed because it went down on a month-to-month basis. So if we take a look at our chart here, we see that in the CPI print for March of 2022 was about 8.5%, and then April 2022, 8.3%. So we're going a little bit down in terms of our rate of change. Does it matter? I don't think so, because 8.5 to 8.3 is still a lot. It's still a lot. That's still a pretty highly elevated amount, especially when the Federal Reserve, the pretty much governing body of our economy, has said we want it to be at 2%, which would be like right here. If you take a look, about since April 2020, we've just gone on a straight line up, a vicious line up too. And it's caused a little bit of response. We've seen the Federal Reserve say that they are going to raise interest rates. They're going to try and combat inflation by raising the interest rates, the amount of pretty much the cost of borrowing money. So it becomes harder to borrow money, thus less corporations, companies are going to do it. Thus putting less money overall floating around, trying to chase fewer goods. Now we still have the issues of supply constraints and all that, but let's take a look at this overall. That it was down from last month. Instead of an 8.5%, we had an 8.3%. Still stupidly high. Core inflation, though, strips out food and energy prices, which increased 6.2% over the last year. This is the part that really pisses me off, because these two things are probably the number one and number two expensive outside of your home or your rent that people are purchasing: food and energy. And I mentioned this before. The particular reason is that there's things that could happen to food, like a famine or a storm, that would cause a lot of shocks and reverberations. Energy prices are always subject to, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the reason that they strip out energy prices is because of volatility. That volatility is usually politically based. So they're trying to strip out the things that are the most volatile, which are also the things that we are the most reliant upon. Now, obviously, you can talk about, like, is the numbers even accurate? I don't know, but let's just take a look at gas in particular and see if it is, if we can kind of establish something here. They're saying that with gas and food, inflation rose 8.3%. Let's take a look at the week of May 10, 2021. Gas was at 3.051. Now it's at 4.428. So gas rose on average about $1, which about $1.20, which, if you're starting at $3.10, is about a 33% increase in price of gasoline in 1 year. Let's take a look at food now. What I have here, the best way I found to track food is just using some of the funds that are available, using the futures as well. So if we take a look at milk in May right there, May 10th, how much has it gone up? 31% as well. Interesting. Corn futures. I can use a corn fund here instead if I can find May as well. Right there, lock it in. 41% on corn. Wheat. Wheat futures themselves here. ZW. All right, same thing. Let me see if I can find May. We had a spike last year as well. All right, May. Wheat futures to now 54%. And then coffee. I remember this one, KC. Coffee futures, this is going to be high, I can already tell you that. Well, let's go from here to here, 39. So the point of this is just to say, like, our food and gasoline are going at least 30% higher. For those of you renting, I don't have this specific way to track rent, but I just know from personal narratives, take that however you want, that rent is going up more than single digits for sure. So while they're saying inflation is slowing, I think that's because of the way that they're tracking these things are not the most accurate, and that's a common thing to that's a common criticism people have, is that this number can be, the consumer price index can be baked in a way that tells whatever story you want. It's not exactly the most accurate, because we know from a year ago we're not facing 8.3% rise. It's a lot tougher than that, but nevertheless. So what's a better way to track it? I think the producer price index, because that's the cost that producers are submitting, that they are paying in order to make all their supplies. I'll release a video when that comes out. It's a little bit stronger, and I'll release a video giving a better detail of it, but that's kind of more commonly known as like, rather than looking at what the people are paying for, let's look at what it costs to make these goods in the first place, because those are just tracked with more credibility, more reliability as well. But the point of me showing you the gas prices and all that is that things are pretty tough. It's higher prices. It's going to be a narrative story no matter what. Inflation is the number one thing that they're looking at. The Federal Reserve has gone on to combat the idea of rising inflation. How is that going to impact you? What does it mean? It means that they're going to be taking procedures that are more contractionary to the economy. They're contracting it. We've been in expansionary or growth, so to say, for quite some time. Now they're saying we're going to chill out. They're taking away quantitative easing. They're raising interest rates, mainly to combat this inflation. Look out for just stories that are going to be helping them paint that piece however they like. So we could be seeing inflation now increases 5% next month, and that would be a win for them because it's saying we're decreasing month-to-month rate of change. But again, keep in mind that inflation is 5% higher. It doesn't mean that things are getting cheaper. It means from last year, it cost you still more money this year to purchase things than it did last year. If you're wondering, like, when is it going to be better? It's when you see negative prints, when things are cheaper this year than when they were last year. But that, I don't think that's going to be happening for quite some time with just the constraints we have following our economy right now, with supply constraints, with still just a lot of money out there trying to chase fewer goods is the whole idea. So keep an eye on that. I think there might be a little bit of misconception coming out that if we start seeing prices, inflation prints coming in below 8%, below 7, 6, and all that, those are going to be deemed as victories. But again, an inflation print at 5% is still like pretty bad. I mean, we're getting conditioned to higher inflation rates, but don't think that just because it goes from 8.5% to 5% is going to be a victory. It might look like it, but it's still that for the consumer, you're still paying more. There's no answers really for how do we make things cheaper. And again, I've never seen companies lower prices until forced to. I've never seen Apple come out with a new iPhone this year where the cost of it is cheaper than when they came out with the new iPhone the year before. Maybe sometimes in groceries, gasoline, the prices goes down. That's the only thing. I don't know when goods are going to become cheaper. I don't know when companies are going to, sacrifice their profit margins so the consumer isn't, their budget isn't squeezed. So that's just the idea. What does it mean for you? It means things are still expensive. It means that we're still trying to figure, the idea of like finding a new job that pays more is on the table. Getting some side hustles to make more money completely on the table as well. I think those are two good things to do. I've talked about before that the job market might be seeing a little bit of contraction as well. But as always, if you have skills that you're either working on or skills that you're sharpening, if you can bring quality, that's always going to be able to help you make money no matter what. So that's just a quick primer on inflation. I'll do another video later this week, I think, talking about just the credit issue that might be coming up, people putting a lot of stuff in their credit cards. And I'll go over the PPI, Producer Price Index, as well. I'll probably be churning out a couple of videos, maybe once a day for the next couple days before the weekend. So keep an eye out for those, folks. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this gives you at least some kind of information behind inflation. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll leave my Twitter like usual for you all to interact with me however you please. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I'll catch you back tomorrow.